Hi everyone, welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Emily. Today we're talking about something that affects all of us at one point or another, healing. Specifically, the fact that healing is not linear.
Yeah. There's this idea out there that once you start healing, it's a straight path forward. That things keep getting better, little by little, until you're just fine.
But real healing doesn't look like that at all. Sometimes it feels like progress, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, you're hit by a wave of old emotions and think, why am I back here again?
Exactly. And that moment can feel so discouraging, like you're failing at getting better. But the truth is, those days don't mean you're going backwards. They are just part of the process.
Because healing isn't a checklist. It's not a straight road with clear signs. It's more like a series of loops, ups and downs, breakthroughs and setbacks.
And the hardest part is learning to be kind to yourself on the days it still hurts. To not let those harder moments convince you that all the growth you've made has disappeared.
We don't really talk enough about the aftershocks. Like, maybe you've moved on, maybe you're building something new, and yet one memory, one smell, one quiet moment can still bring the ache back.
Yeah. And people around you might not understand it. They might think, but you're doing so much better now, and you feel guilty for still struggling underneath.
But emotions aren't on a schedule. You don't wake up healed one day and never feel sadness again. Sometimes the pain comes back, just to remind you what you've survived.
And sometimes it shows up simply because you're still human. You're still carrying something that mattered. And healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means learning to carry it differently.
And on those days that still hurt, the goal isn't to make the pain disappear. It's to stay with yourself through it. To not abandon yourself, just because you're feeling low.
That's the work, isn't it? Showing up for yourself in the dark just as much as you do in the light.
Absolutely. And reminding yourself that it's okay to still feel. That progress isn't cancelled by pain, it coexists with it.
You know, it's almost like the heart has its own rhythm when it comes to healing. And sometimes, it beats slow. Sometimes it skips. And that's okay.
And just because you had a hard day doesn't mean you're broken all over again. It just means you're human, and you're still processing, still living.
That's something we often forget. There's no final destination where everything stops hurting and nothing touches you anymore. Even joy can exist right next to grief.
Right? And sometimes we look back and wonder, why does this still affect me? But maybe the question isn't why it still hurts, maybe it's how we choose to sit with it now, compared to before.
Because that's where the growth is, isn't it? In how we treat ourselves when things feel heavy. Whether we shame ourselves, or comfort ourselves.
Exactly. And healing doesn't mean you always feel strong. It just means you're more aware, more gentle, more able to say, this is hard, but I'll stay with myself through it.
There's such quiet power in that. You're no longer avoiding the pain, or pretending it didn't happen, you're just learning to live with it more peacefully.
And that might look like crying on a day you thought would be easy. Or missing someone you've already let go of. Or grieving a version of you that no longer exists.
And none of that means you've gone backwards. If anything, it means you're healing deeply. You're finally letting yourself feel instead of suppress.
That's something we should really normalize, talking about the quiet days, the in-between ones. Where you're not falling apart, but not fully okay either.
Because those days are part of the healing. The awkward, silent, weird ones. The ones where you just get through. They count too.
They absolutely do. You don't need to be thriving every day to prove you're healing. Just being here, still showing up, is enough.
You know what's interesting? Sometimes the most powerful healing moments happen quietly. No big breakthrough, no dramatic shift. Just noticing that you handled something differently this time.
Exactly. Like you didn't spiral the way you used to. Or you reached out instead of shutting down. Or you let yourself rest without guilt. That's real healing, even if no one sees it.
And that's the thing, most of healing is invisible. People don't see the inner work, the tiny choices, the conversations you have with yourself in the middle of the night.
They don't see the tears that you let fall in private, or the thoughts you rewrote before they consumed you. But you know. You feel it. And that's what matters.
There's something really beautiful about becoming your own witness. Watching yourself get stronger in quiet, gentle ways. Not for applause, just for you.
And even on the days that feel heavy again, you can remind yourself, I've felt like this before, and I got through it.
Yes. That's not weakness, that's memory. Your body remembering pain. But it's also proof that you've made it through before, and you will again.
I think healing invites us to build trust with ourselves again. After whatever broke us, after whatever we lost, we get to rebuild safety inside us.
And that takes time. It's not instant. But every time you choose to care for yourself, even in a small way, you're telling yourself, you're worth showing up for.
Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's when self-compassion matters the most, not when everything's going well, but when you're struggling to feel whole.
And what a gift it is, honestly. To learn to be your own anchor. To not need everything to be perfect in order to feel safe within yourself.
That's what we all want at the end of the day, isn't it? Not to erase the pain, but to carry it without it breaking us.
And there's this pressure sometimes to get over things quickly, as if there's a deadline on grief or pain. But honestly, who decides how long it should take?
Exactly. We all heal at different paces, and sometimes things resurface years later. Something reminds you, triggers something, and suddenly it's back. Doesn't mean you've failed. Just means you're human.
And healing doesn't mean the pain vanishes, it means you're learning how to carry it with more grace, more understanding, maybe even more peace.
And letting go of the idea that you should be done by now is a big part of that. Some things don't ever fully leave us, they just change shape.
You start to feel them differently. Maybe less sharply, or in different contexts. But they still live with you in some way, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And maybe that's not something to fear. Maybe that's what makes us softer. More compassionate. More real.
You know, I think there's real strength in staying open even after being hurt. To not close off just to protect yourself. To feel things anyway.
Because it's easy to shut down, to numb, to pretend we're unaffected. But healing is choosing to feel it all and still keep moving.
And no one sees that inner courage, the quiet resilience. But it matters. It shapes who you're becoming.
And sometimes, the most healing thing you can do is just sit with yourself without trying to fix anything. Just be. Just breathe. Just let it be what it is.
It's not always about solutions. Sometimes it's about presence. Letting yourself feel without rushing to explain it away.
And knowing you don't need to have it all together to be healing. You can be messy and emotional and uncertain, and still be making progress.
So if you're listening right now and today feels heavy, or even if it doesn't, just remember, healing doesn't mean you're fine all the time. It means you're learning to meet yourself with more honesty and care, even when it's hard.
You're allowed to have off days. You're allowed to feel everything. And you're allowed to take as long as you need. There's no race, no finish line, just you, growing, unfolding, at your own pace.
Thanks for spending time with us today. We hope this conversation reminded you that even the slow, quiet days are part of your progress.
We'll be back soon with more gentle, honest chats. But until then, be kind to yourself. You're doing better than you think.
Take care, and we'll speak to you again next time on the British Accent Podcast.